The Fair Housing Office under NHSD implements the most important direct service programs for people seeking housing security. The staff there are aware of programs and other resources available throughout the region, so they have the potential to provide comprehensive, coordinated service to clients per the Mayor's Housing Policy Task Force recommendations. They also, when we were working with them, had an extremely trauma-informed staff. Conversations among our group were regularly had on the health impacts of housing insecurity and ways to make client experiences feel safe. And that has a huge impact on health. That can't be stressed enough. The Fair Housing Office has the most vital information City Council needs to hear about their constituents' struggles with housing security that we don't think is getting to y'all right now. Next slide, please. So this is some background. This is my background is participatory research. By theory, we have some of the city passed public participation principles on the left that are important. It's a two-way communication, right? With the goal of engaging stakeholders in decision-making processes. On the right is Einstein's ladder of citizen participation. This is a tool of measurement frequently used to operationalize participatory democracy in literature on such. And you'll see at the very bottom is therapy and manipulation, which is non-participation, and on top, citizen control, delegated power, partnership, and that is citizen power. That's what we believe that we were doing for that year before RMP turned into EHAP. City, not only did city staff used to frequently say nothing's burning down when we work with community in this way, but it also got the city a national award for one of the best rent relief programs in the country. Next slide, please. So this is participatory action research. It's a method of performing research that empowers change in society through collective inquiry of a problem. The principles are equity and stakeholders. All stakeholders are considered co-researchers and have equal value to contribute. Power dynamics are critically assessed every step of the process. So important. And stakeholders develop new research skills by co-creating data from different perspectives that helps empower community and collective empowerment, better, more sustainable results. And that chart there is just an example of how we as individuals are affected by all of the systems beyond us, up to city government, national world government and economy, as well. Those things affect us as the individual. And it's so important to constantly be bringing those together. Next slide, please. So this is PAR and policymaking. Participatory policymaking process is applying PAR to policy creation and implementation. The goal is stakeholders develop a collective and critical understanding of a problem in order to democratically decide what interventions will be most effective and efficient. Here, as an example with RMP, the objective was to discover the root causes of displacement. It wasn't just to give out the money, it was also to get to what other changes need to happen through the people who are experiencing it. The hypothesis, relocation, and emergency assistance. This is also the wheel of science, by the way. Science is a never-ending process. After the hypothesis was considered, we implemented and collected the data, and then reflected with the stakeholders, brought the data to all of the important stakeholders and wondered what are the most questions to the stakeholders. And that gets us to our next, what is another intervention that will most be successful for preventing displacement. Next slide, please. Through the year that we worked together, we were so committed to equitable outreach and participation. We did lots of different outreach efforts, including some community conversations where we presented the data to community in order to get that community-based analysis. And it was really incredible, those two meetings. The one we started off with an icebreaker of what would be your superpower. And the majority of people said that theirs would be to heal people. This was the kind of people that we were able to bring together in a room to talk about housing insecurity and solutions. And it was mostly all people who work directly with tenants or homeowners in crisis. Next slide. So we put all of that throughout this entire process. It was being documented by NHSD, and unfortunately that information never made it past our group. There is 208 pages, and the final version was created in January 2020 as the Risk Mitigation Fund Fiscal Year 2019 report. It contains really valuable data of communities most impacted by housing insecurity pre-COVID, which is important to have now that we have so much data after COVID. And two, it documents the participatory process that resulted in what became the framework as presented as EHAP. When this was completed in January 2020, we also received awards from NHSD for outstanding contribution to the outreach, implementation, and evaluation of the Risk Mitigation Fund policy. Next slide. If there was anything that I would ask y'all to look at after this, it's this document that was created in our last 2 meetings together in May 2020 before Fair Housing was not able to meet with us anymore. And these are just 2 sections from it, but it really got into the details of how to implement participatory policymaking process, which we know is possible under NHSD, under the leadership that allows it. The Risk Mitigation Fund policy was developed as part of San Antonio's housing policy framework as a resource to, 1, mitigate the housing crisis via emergency funds, relocation assistance, 2, create space inside the city for democratic participation of people most impacted by San Antonio's housing crisis, and 3, generate data to be used to deeper understand root causes of displacement. Benefits of participatory policy making, and this was again created with city staff, this document. Everyone gains perspective, valuable firsthand information and data directly from people implementing and being impacted by programs, and a more holistic analysis to better identify gaps and solutions so that would have remained hidden absent additional perspective. And these are some examples of what we put in this document that we saw implemented into EHAP, why it was so prepared for immediate distribution of all that money. In the case of RMP, previously identified problems and recommendations from this group were able to be rapidly mobilized for COVID-19 response. Interventions for food insecurity and domestic violence, trauma-informed care, flexible documentation, direct cash assistance, sensitivity to immigration status, effective outreach, additional staff, and key data points. Next slide, please. So this is on the report that most recently created by NHSD. After creating the EHAP client survey within the Housing Commission Community Outreach Work Group and obtaining the data late December, NHSD leadership circumvented community engagement efforts to be included in the analysis by generating a 50-page report released the night before it was brought to Housing Commission for discussion, with a timeline to pass recs through council by February 18th. Prior to that, avenues by which NHSD leadership was directed to involve the RMP EHAP community stakeholders in co-analysis and presentation of EHAP data and recs was the RMP EHAP stakeholders, the Housing Commission Community